What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Good Wolf Project. I'm your host, Jerry Scarlato, and today's conversation is with Jay Connor. Jay is the host of the Raising Private Money podcast and the author of the book, Where to Get the Money Now. This is a very tactical conversation that Jay and I have when it comes to raising private money. If you have ever thought about being in real estate investing, or on the other end, if you've thought about putting your money somewhere or investing your money somewhere, being a private lender is an option. And so Jay goes over some of the tactics and strategies that you can use on both ends. If you're a real estate investor and you're seeking to find a way to get money so that you don't have to go to a bank and jump through hoops and give them all your financials and let them know what's going on with your whole life, there are options. There are different options. Or if you're somebody who's trying to figure out where to put your money, you want it to go somewhere, then there are people out there who are really good at, I have friends who are really good at investing in real estate, and they will give you a return on your money. So you have options on both sides. We also go over how Jay has overcome certain struggles in his life. Of course, being in real estate, you have ups and downs. He went through the 2008 financial crisis, got his line of credit taken away from him, unbeknownst to him, until he made a phone call. Had to do a big shift there. That's what got him into private lending. He also overcame a number of other things. And the main thing that he focuses on is not being a victim. Instead of reacting to events that happen to you, learn to respond to events that happen to you, become resilient, recognize that there are things that you can control, and it is up to you to control those things so that the outcome is dictated by you and not by some external event. So that's a big thing we talk about as well. Get your pen and paper out and get ready to enjoy this conversation with Jay Connor. All right, Jay, I figure we might as well start where I was about to ask you. I have a bunch of places where I wanted to go, or I want to go. But go ahead and tell me what's the difference between, we were talking beforehand for everybody who's listening, just catching up and shooting the stuff. And Jay happened to mention the difference, not the difference, but that he was a private lender, a specialist in private lending, not hard money lending. So tell me what's the difference, because I think in my mind, I always felt like they were the same, but clearly there's a difference.
Yes, there's a big difference. By the way, Jerry, thank you for inviting me to join you here on your show. So, and it's very easy for real estate investors to be confused and think that private money and hard money is the same thing because uh, hard money lenders and brokers call themselves private money lenders, right? Which really makes it
Yep,
confusing.
it messes it up.
so, so here's the difference. A hard money lender is typically it's institutional money is what it is, but it's a brokerage that has gone out and raised private money from individuals, and these individuals are investing in the hard money lender's fund, and then the hard money lender, as a broker, turns around, lends that money out, typically at a higher rate, and also makes their money by charging origination fees and points and some junk fees and extension fees and that kind of thing. And the hard money lender makes the rules. They are the underwriter, which is, of course, traditional. Typically, the hard money lender or any kind of institutional is going to, create the terms. They're going to set the maximum loan to value. They're going to set the frequency of payments. They're going to set the interest rate, etc. Well, that's hard money. And by the way, I say, and some of my best friends are hard money lenders. I say establish as many relationships as you can with as many funding sources, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But the difference, what is private money if it's not hard money? Well, private money is when the real estate investor is borrowing money directly from another individual, doing business directly with an individual, a human being that's got either investment capital and or retirement funds that they can lend out and get high rates of return safely and securely. So it's a one-on-one transaction with no middle person involved. And in this world of private money, the lender does not make the rules. We make the rules. Now, that right there is a mind shift. You
For
see,
sure.
instead of applying for a mortgage, there's no applications. You're already approved. Your credit's got nothing to do with how much money you can get. And so we make the rules. We set the interest rate as the borrower. We are our own underwriter. We set the frequency of payments. We set the maximum loan to value. So what we're doing is we're offering an opportunity primarily to people that have never heard of this world. They've never heard of private money, never heard of private lending. They've never heard of self-directed IRAs and how they can take a current retirement account that is, say, at Charles Schwab or Morgan Stanley or Edward Jones or a 401k from a previous employer or even a current employer if they've been there long enough, and transfer those retirement funds over to a IRS-approved self-directed IRA company. They can then lend that money out, that retirement money out, and earn either tax deferred or tax free interest income without having to report anything to the IRS. And so this whole world is like brand new to most people who are walking around. And now, if you're doing business with an existing private lender, an individual that's already loaning money out, then, in that case, you're not putting on your teacher hat, private money teacher.
I like
They
that.
already know what it is. So
Uh-huh.
now if you're talking to an existing private lender that's already loaned money out, now that's a negotiation conversation. I don't want to have a negotiation conversation with my private lenders. I got 47 private lenders personally, myself, now, and not one of them had ever heard of private money, private lending, self-directed IRAs until I put on my teacher hat and I shared this with them. I've never asked anybody for money, Jerry, since I started doing private money all the way back in 2009. I'd been investing from 2003 to 2009, just going to the local bank, borrowing money for my deals. That's all I knew to do. And then, of course, that changed abruptly in January of 2009 when I lost my line of credit at the bank with no notice. And there's a
Love that.
story that goes along with that. But anyway, I learned about private money, raised a couple of $1 million in less than 90 days from people that had never heard about private lending, private money, self-directed IRAs, until I told them about this program I'd put together, this opportunity. And of course, there's steps that I can talk about as to how to go through that. But that's a long answer to your question as to what's the difference between hard money lending and private money.
Yeah, well, it's a clarifying answer. More importantly, um, you know, it's interesting because so many people don't. I talk to a lot of business owners or want to be business owners. I'll give you an example. There's a guy at the gym. He's only 25 years old. He's currently in real estate, but he works for a new home builder. And so he just sells their plots. He sells their home plots. And that's how he makes money. And he does coaching on the side. He's a big fitness buff, so he does fitness coaching on the side. And he's trying to figure out how to jump into his own thing. And I keep explaining, like, you're doing good in this real estate thing, but you're not building equity in anything. You're not going to see any long-term wealth development per se, even though you might be getting a good paycheck. You're basically building their dream. You're not building your dream. And one of the things he has a hard time grasping is this idea that we're talking about. It's like, you don't have to have the money to go start the thing that you want to start. For me, for example, currently trying to find a business to buy, which is somewhat similar to buying a house to buy. It's a little more intricate because there's more pieces and parts and so on. But one of the only avenue I can use right now is having another person to help me buy the business because I don't have the cash to go buy it. And I know that if I go to the bank is going to make me jump through 30,000 hoops. And then at the end of the day, if they accept me, it's going to be some whatever terms that they want it to be, like you're talking about, which can be fine and that can be okay, but it just becomes more of a pain and a hassle. But why would someone want to use, I think I know the answer, but why would someone want to use a hard lender versus a bank?
You mean use a private lender versus a bank?
A hard money lender. So
Why would
you explain
somebody? Okay, so I can tell you a long list of reasons why to use private money instead of hard money.
the private I get, the private I get.
Yeah.
Why would you want to use a hard money lender instead of a bank?
Yeah. So with a hard money lender, um, excuse me, typically they're going to close quicker
Mm.
than a local bank. A lot of hard money lenders do tabletop appraisals, so you don't have to wait for the appraisal to be done. They can do that on their desk. Um, your They're going to pull your credit, so your credit needs to be okay. But they're not going to ask for financial statements. A bank's going to ask for financial statements. Um, Hard money lender rates are pretty high.
They're going to be
Um,
higher than a bank,
they're going
probably.
to be higher than a bank, but it's just another avenue of access to capital without having to jump through as many hoops as a traditional bank is going to make you jump through.
So you're paying for speed, kind of.
You're paying for speed and, you know, not having to reveal all of your personal financial information. Because, a lot of entrepreneurs on paper, they ain't making no money, right?
Facts.
The bank wants to see a profit and wants to see you paying the IRS,
Hmm.
right? Which, if you owe the IRS, you should pay them, right? But of course, in this world of real estate, there's just lots of tax write-offs that are available.
Yeah, and I'm actually dealing with that one company that I finally set aside. I dug into their last 10 years of financials and so on and so forth. And sure enough, they weren't making any money until the last year and a half when it seems like they decided to sell the business. They finally straightened out basically their financials to make it look like they were making money, and now they're kind of paying for it because it's taking them longer to sell the business than they want, and they're not going to be able to sell it for as much as they were asking. So, um, lesson learned for entrepreneurs out there for sure. I get it because you're trying to lower your your tax burden as much as you can. But at the end of the day, my dad always told me if you ain't paying enough taxes, or if you ain't paying a lot of taxes, you ain't making enough money. So so you got to decide. Um,
Yes.
so speaking of money, I heard one of your recent interviews on another podcast, and you told this story about how you changed your relationship with money a couple times in your life. Tell me that story.
Well, I have so many stories. I'm trying to remember which. Can you clue me in as to which one that was?
Gotta love that. Yeah, I guess I understand as well. As Dad will always say, I got a lot back in this hard drive, and it just kind of sits there until I have to pull it out. So can you help me pull it out? Um, you mentioned that whenever you choose, whenever you chose to go after things for the sake of making money, typically things didn't
Oh,
work out well.
I know exactly what you're talking about. So yeah, I'm glad to share that. So yeah, my relationship regarding what you're talking about, my relationship with money really changed. This was back in my 20s. So I, I have the entrepreneurial spirit. Excuse me. I've got the entrepreneurial spirit, shiny object syndrome, of course,
Yeah.
and you
Yep.
probably know all about that.
Hmm.
And squirrel brain, etc. And so when I was in my 20s, when the MLM multi-level marketing opportunities would come along, and I would see the money, right, that they presented. Well, every time, Jerry, that I got involved in an opportunity or a venture, and the only reason I was involved was to make the money, I failed miserably. I never even got off of square one. And so, the lesson learned on that is to be successful, I've got to be passionate. I got to be passionate. I got to be excited. I got to want to get out of bed in the morning because I can't wait to go do whatever it is that I'm doing. And, what kind of impact am I making on other people? How am I serving other people? What am I doing on purpose to make a difference in other people's lives? And, in business, we're problem solvers. If there wasn't a problem, then we wouldn't have a service to try to help fix that problem or make someone's life better or to help get them out of pain. As a real estate investor, We're serving people all the time. Most of the houses that we buy, either the property is in distress or the owner's in distress, financial stress, and we're help solve a problem there. In my coaching business, where I work with other real estate investors and show them and help them raise hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions of dollars in private money for their real estate deals, that's a service that I'm providing that is really changing their lives. And even when it comes to private money and borrowing private money, you know, people ask me all the time, Jay, how do you get started raising private money? I'll say, well, I'll tell you how you get started. You got to own the real estate between your ears first before you can own real estate out here. And so we're not asking, I mean, we're not asking, begging, chasing, persuading, trying to talk any new potential private lender into loaning us money. We simply shared this program, how they can earn high rates of return safely and securely. It's not unsecured promissory notes. All the notes that, or all the money we borrow is backed by the real estate that we're purchasing. Well, so what I came to find out very, very quickly is that we're impacting these individuals' lives that become private lenders. We've gotten thank you notes over the years from elderly couples that have said, you have changed our retirement years. We've been able to go and travel and see our grandkids anytime we want to. They have the principal, but they didn't want to touch the principal. They wanted to live off of that principal. So yes, the relationship with money. Now, of course, you got to have a good business plan, of course, to make money.
Yeah.
But if that is your sole driving force, then people, number one, you're not going to be successful. Number two, people that you're looking to sell something to or offer something to, they're going to see right through it.
Yeah, sniff it out.
Desperation's got a smell to it, right? And I tell people all the time, the worst time in the world to be trying to raise money for real estate is when you need it for a deal. I mean, that makes no sense to me. Jerry, I'm gonna take a little risk here. All right. I'm gonna take a little risk. And I'm gonna ask you if you have ever heard someone on the stage or platform that is teaching real estate investing. Have you ever heard them say this to the real estate investors, the newbies in the audience? Quote unquote. Oh, just get the deal under contract. The money will show up. You ever heard that?
No.
You never heard that? Well, I have heard it many times. It makes
Have
no
you
sense.
heard it? I have heard it in business terms, yes, but I admittedly haven't been to many real estate. But in business, I've heard it. That's why I laugh, because in business, I do hear that a lot. Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And I want to say, where is the money going to show up? Is it just
Yeah,
like going to rain out of
drop.
clouds?
Mhm.
Right? So that's why I practice and preach all the time. Get the money first. The money comes first. Think about how much more confident, how many more offers people would make on real estate deals if they first got the private money burning a hole in their pocket. Now, I need to be clear on something here. I've mentioned already that, I got 47 private lenders right now funding my deals, $8.5 million in private money that we, use on different projects. So I say all the time, I've never asked anybody for money. I've never pitched a deal in my life. And so the question is, Jay, how do you get your deals funded if you're not pitching a deal? Well, here's the secret sauce. Don't miss this. We're going to separate the conversations with a new potential private lender. They can be people that you've already, you go to church with, or in your cell phone, ever how someone. We separate the activity and conversation of teaching the opportunity, because we pay the same rates on no matter what the deal is, and the frequency of payments and the length of the notes. So we teach the opportunity, the program, without a deal attached to it. And then once they understand the program, they like the program, they tell us how much they want to start with to invest. And by the way, they always have more than they tell you. How much they want to start with. Is it retirement funds? Do I need to introduce them to a self-directed IRA representative at a company that they can transfer their retirement funds over to and then be a private lender with that money? And so they tell me how much they got to work with. And then I tell them, I will put your money to work for you just as soon as possible. So then a few days goes by, maybe a week or 2 weeks goes by. Now, here's how I get the deal funded without ever asking for money and never pitching a deal. So let's say, Jerry, you're one of my new private lenders. Let's say you had $150,000 already in a retirement account, maybe a previous 401k, or maybe that 150,000 is with Morgan Stanley or Charles Schwab or Edward D. Jones, and you're not happy with the returns that you're getting. So I introduced you to the self-directed IRA company. You moved that money over with no tax triggering, no tax effect. And I told you, all right, Jerry, I'm going to call you up as soon as possible and put your money to work for you just as soon as possible. So now I got a deal for you to fund. I pick up the phone. By the way, Jerry, you may find it interesting. We actually still have receivers and cords
Look at
here
that.
in North
Wow.
Carolina.
That's
But a
incredible.
lot of people haven't even
Is
seen
it a
it yet.
turn? Is it a turn phone? What is
No, it's not.
that
It's
one?
got push button. It's got
Oh,
push
okay.
button.
Fancy.
But anyway, so now I'm going to call you up and you're going to fund one of my deals. So I pick up the phone, I call you, you say hello, and you and I have a little chit chat. Here's the exact script that I say to my private lender when I got a deal for him to fund. I'll say, Jerry, I've got great news for you. I can now put your money to work. I've got a house in Newport under contract with an after repaired value of $200,000. The funding required for the property is $150,000, which matches up to what you have. Closing is going to be next Friday, so you'll need to have your funds wired to my real estate attorney's trust account by next Thursday. I'm going to have my attorney email you the wiring instructions. That's the end of the conversation. The most stupid thing in the world I could ask you is, do you want to do the deal? Of course you want to do the deal because you're not making any money until I put your money to work and it's just sitting there in the account getting nothing. And I'm not going to bring a deal to you to fund unless it matches the criteria of the program that I already taught you. And so I'm ethically bound to put your money to work. And so that's it. It's that simple. Call them up. Great news. The after repaired value, the community where it's located, they could care less what the physical address is. The funding required that you're going to borrow, when closing is, wiring instructions are coming. It's that simple.
So I love the storytelling part of it in the beginning. Essentially, you're getting them on board with what's going to happen. You're letting them know what, like, here's the program that I'm running, here's the thing that I'm doing, and you're letting them know how they're going to get a return on the money.
Yeah, it's just like the way the program works is it's just like them taking 100,000, 200,000, whatever dollars, and putting it in the local bank certificate of deposit. So the private lender doesn't own any of the project. They're not joint venturing. They're not getting any of the profits. They're getting a set rate of return, which is 8%. I've been paying 8% since February 2009. I'm still paying 8% today. And they know exactly what their rate of return is going to be, which, by the way, now that I mentioned the 8% I've been paying since 2009, in recent months and past year or two, people will ask me, they'll say, Jay, how in the world are you still only paying 8%? And the market rates have gone like sky high out of the ceiling. I said, well, that's a good question. And here are the two answers. The first answer is I make the rules, not the lender, right? So I make the rules. Number two, prior to COVID, the 12-month annual certificate of deposit average interest rate got down to 0.17%. Today, you can get about 4%, right? Well, guess what? 8%. Last time I calculated,
100% more.
8% is a lot better than 4%.
Oh, for sure that is. So I'm assuming the person that you're trying to go after is not the right way to put that, Jerry. The person that you're trying to tell a story to and help understand how you can help them with their money is not previously been a private lender.
Correct.
Because generally that person is going to want to set the rules.
Well, it's going to be a negotiation conversation.
Yeah.
Right? They already know this world of private money. Yeah. Right? Now, you can do business with with existing private lenders, but most of them are not going to be happy with 8% because they've already been spoiled getting 11 or 12.
11 or 12, yeah. Mhm.
and points, right? In this world of private money, there are no points. There are no origination. I've never paid a point origination fee to a private lender, and so that's why we expose this opportunity. Most people walking around have never heard of private money, private
Mhm.
lending. They've never heard of self-directed IRAs and how they can transfer current retirement funds over to a self-directed IRA company and be a private lender, right?
Yep.
And earn tax deferred or tax free income.
So you keep mentioning 2009, and that's when you switch from lending from institutionalized lending to private lending.
Correct.
Um, I think we all know what happened in 2008 to cause that, but um, go over that time frame for me.
Sure. Well, and in this story of what happened, there's some very, very important lessons, takeaways. So, as I said, in 2003, my wife, Carol Joy, and we started investing in single family houses in 2003 in two little counties here in eastern North Carolina. And by the way, our total target market's only 40,000 people. We only do 2 to 3 deals a month. Average profits are $82,000 per deal. I don't share that to brag at all. I share that to make a point. And that is an argument to be made to dominate a small market and be a big fish in a small pond instead of competing with all those other real estate investors in highly populated areas. If you're in a big city, go out in the suburbs or whatever. Anyway, I digress. And the business has been great to us. We've rehabbed over 500 houses, since we've been doing
Hmm.
this. But anyway, back to the funding. From 2003 until January of 2009, that's all I knew to do. Go to the bank, get on my hands and knees, put my hands underneath my chin, raise my skirt up for them to look at my personal assets, give me a colonoscopy, pull my credit. That's all I knew to do, right?
Hmm.
And that worked okay. That worked okay
Hmm.
for those first 6 years. Well, I was sitting here at my desk in January 2009, and I'd been doing business with the same bank for 6 years. My banker's name was Steve, and I had two houses under contract that represented over $100,000 in potential profit. And I called up Steve, and this conversation that I thought I was going to have with Steve, I'd had many times over 6 years. So I called up Steve. We had our pleasantries. I went to telling him about these two deals under contract, the funding, that I needed for these two deals. And I learned like that in that conversation that the bank had closed my line of credit with no notice to me. I mean, that'd been nice to know, right? I mean, this
Yes.
was back when you paid earnest money, you couldn't get it back. And so, anyway, I said, Steve, what in the world are you telling me that my line of credit is closed? I said, we've had a great relationship for 6 years, always make my payments. I've still got a great credit score. What's the problem? He said, Jay, don't you know there's a global financial crisis going on right now? I said, no, but you just gave me a financial crisis. I don't have a way to fund my two deals. And so, anyway, I hung up the phone and I sat here at my desk for a moment. And I want to share with your audience, Jerry, a very, very powerful question that I asked myself right after that phone call with Steve. And this question I'm going to share will help fix any problem. And by the way, these people running around saying, oh, you don't have a problem, you got an opportunity. I want to throw up. I didn't have an opportunity, I had a problem. Now, the problem might turn into an opportunity, but at that moment in time, it's a problem, right? So I asked myself this question, and this question will help fix any problem anybody's got. I don't care if it's health, relationships, financial, career, whatever it is. Here's the question I asked myself. I said, Jay, now this is right after I hung up the phone with the banker and I've gotten cut off from the bank. And the bank, and I asked myself, I said, Jay, who, there you go, who do you know that can help you with your problem? I immediately thought of my good friend, Jeff Blankenship. In fact, Carol Joy and I just saw Jeff and his wife and 4 kids this past weekend at a cappella gospel singing event. Anyway, This was 2009. I called up Jeff. He was investing in real estate, single family houses at the time in Greensboro, North Carolina. I called him up after our pleasantries. I told him about my conversation that I just had with my banker. And Jeff sort of giggled and he says, "Well, Jay, welcome to the club." I said, "What club is that?" He said, "The club of having the bank shut down your line of credit. The bank shut down my line of credit last week." I said, "Well, Jeff, how are you going to get your real estate deals funded?" And he said, "Well, have you ever heard of private money?" And I said, "No." He says, "Have you heard of self-directed IRAs and how individuals can loan money out from their retirement accounts and truly self-direct their investments?" I said, "No, I've never heard of that." And so he told me about it. I hung up the phone and I started studying private money. And so I decided I'm not going to be begging, chasing, selling, trying to persuade anybody to give me money. I'm going to do what? I'm going to put an opportunity together and I'm going to put on my teacher hat and I'm going to go about teaching people what private money is in this opportunity. And so I did that. I decided what interest rate I'm going to pay, no matter what the deal is or who the private lender is, and how they can get their money back in case of an emergency. That's called a 90-day call option that I put in the promissory notes. And so here's how I started. I started when I got my program put together, which didn't take me long. I started attracting the money without asking anybody for money. It was on Wednesday night at 7:30. Carol Joy and I have been members of the Morehead City Church of Christ at 209 Barber Road since 1988. And so we were going to Bible study on Wednesday night, and I walked into the foyer, and I was looking for Wayne. Wayne and I had known each other for some time. And I walked up to Wayne, and I said, "Wayne, I'd like to visit with you about something confidential after Bible study tonight." And he said, "Sure." So we got together after Bible study, went down to the nursery in the church building, shut the door, and here's exactly what I said to Wayne. I said, "Wayne, you know everybody in this town." And he did. He was the original Zenith television dealer in Morehead City, North Carolina. Now, if you don't know who the Zenith television dealer was, that's because you're too young to remember life before Walmart came to town. You bought your TVs from the Zenith dealer, he'd actually finance it for you. He repairs your TVs, all that stuff. Well, he had put a TV in just about everybody's house in this town over the years. So here's exactly what I said to Wayne. I said, "Wayne, you know everybody in this town." And I said, "Wayne, I need your help." Woo, there's a magic phrase right there. I said, "Wayne, I need your help." I said, "I've now opened up my real estate investing business by referral only. And I'm now paying insane high rates of return to my investors that invest with me in my deals." And I said, "Wayne, when you run across somebody that is complaining about, the low certificate of deposit rates in the local bank, or they're complaining about the volatility of the stock market, would you refer them to me and I'll tell them about my program that I have?" And Wayne looked at me and he says, "Well, now, Brother Jay, what you talking about there? What you got going on?" And I said, "Well, Wayne, are you saying that you might be interested?" He said, "Well, I might be interested." I said, "Well, why is that?" He said, "Well, we're losing money in the stock market, and I'm only getting, just a little bit of interest, in the CDs at the local bank." He said, what kind of rates are you paying?" And I said, "Well, Wayne, that sort of depends on the deal." I said, "But, what sounds high to you?" And he said, "Well, right now we're only getting 3% in the local bank," and that's what it was back in 2009. And he says, "I don't know, I guess 5 or 6% would be pretty high." I said, "Wayne, I can't pay you 5 or 6%, but I can pay you 8%. And he said, "Put me down for $250,000. And so the next day, I went to his and his wife's home, and I went over the entire program that I'd put together. Length of the note, interest rate I'll pay, frequency of payments you'll receive. They would be interest-only payments. That way you make more money, helps my cash flow because you keep all of your principal invested, etc." And so over 2 cups of coffee, that $250,000 became $500,000 by that next afternoon. Notice I did not bring up any deal at all in that initial conversation. I just talked about the program, right? And so they were losing money in the stock market, and they were getting older. So our elderly private lenders particularly love this program because they make a great rate of return. It's safe and secure because I'm not borrowing any unsecured money. They're getting a deed of trust or a mortgage backed by the real estate, backing that note by the real estate. And they don't have to worry about the volatility of the value of their investment because their principal loan amount remains the same until cash out. So they know exactly what the return is going to be.
Yeah, I love at the beginning of that you went over the question, the who. And I think that's important to note or important to point out because most people go to what. I think that's the big distinction there. And that's the big mindset shift there
Yeah,
is instead of going directly to what do I need to do next, you go to who do I know or who can I reach out to or who, whatever the follow up of the question is. And
mm-hmm.
that actually will allow you to expedite the problem.
Absolutely. Have you heard of the book? It's a pretty recent book written, co-authored by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And the title of it is Who, Not How.
I haven't.
Oh, I highly recommend it.
I know both of
Highly,
them, but no, I haven't read that or I haven't heard of that one.
yes. Who, not how. Highly recommend it. But you're right, and particularly us guys. I mean, we think we've just got to do, we're all macho guys. We got to do everything, on our own
Oh yeah,
and
I got to figure it out.
figure it out by ourselves. Well, that's not a very wise way to look at things, right? The book of Proverbs, Solomon said that there is wise counsel among many counselors.
Mm.
So we all need people to help us out, And if I had not called up Jeff Blankenship, I probably would have been out of business, right? I probably
Yeah.
would have been out of business.
Well, because it sounds like he basically gave you a couple of nuggets to think about, and then you basically went from there and expanded it on your own. Not your own. I'm sure you asked other people and helped gather information that way as well, but you put a program together based on a conversation with a friend.
Absolutely. And what did I do? I sought out a conference to where I could learn all the details about how private money works. And that's what I did. I went to that conference within 2 weeks of talking to my buddy Jeff, and I learned all the details of how to put your own private money program together, how to share it with other people and teach it. And so I put it on steroids. And then 2 years later, in 2011, I started doing the same thing, coaching and teaching other real estate investors how they can get all the private money and funding for their deals, never miss out on a deal for not having the money, and do it all without ever having to ask for money. Another way that I raise a lot of money without, and my mastermind members as well raise a lot of private money without asking, is we put on private lender luncheons or private lender events, and we'll invite 20 or so people from people that we know, wherever you know them from in the community. Are you involved in any civic clubs or whatever, and invite them and have your CPA there, have your real estate attorney there, have your realtor there that you work with. And I've got a PowerPoint presentation that my mastermind members use, and you feed them lunch, and it takes only 20, 25 minutes to go through the PowerPoint presentation. You're not pitching any deals. You're just exposing people to this program. And, we've got a little interest sheet that we have pass out on the table after I finish. Are you interested? If so, how much? You want more details or whatever? Again, I'm not asking for money. I'm just asking for their interest level. And I've raised $969,000 at just one private lender luncheon myself. So you don't have to run around town with your hair on fire, chasing and begging and selling and persuading. You're offering this opportunity. Now, I did say in my story that the problem can become an opportunity, which it did. For example, Jerry, the opportunity to be on your show here with you would not have happened. It would not have happened unless I had been cut off from the bank. and I had to find a better way. I learned a really, really important formula and mindset from Jack Canfield. You know, Jack Canfield is the co author with Mark Victor Hansen of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series of books that were very, very popular, 20, 30 years ago. There's a chicken soul. There's a chicken soup for every kind of soul out there. They've written a book about it. But anyway, I went to one of his conferences, and he's got a book out. It's called The Success Principles. 69 success principles are in the book. And his very first principle in the book is take 100% responsibility for everything that happens in your life, whether you had created it or you didn't. So, and he gave this formula that I just found just mind-boggling and makes so much sense. The formula on taking 100% responsibility and actually being in charge of your own destiny is a formula that is E plus R equals O. And the E stands for the event that happened in your life, whether you attracted it or you didn't. The event plus R, which is your response to that event, equals the outcome, equals what are you experiencing in life, or what are you going to experience. Now, unfortunately, most people walking around are living by a different formula. Most people walking around are living by the formula E equals O. The event, whatever happened, equals the outcome. Well, that's called victim mentality. That's victim mentality
Very pervasive.
Instead of victor mentality.
Hmm.
So here's the beautiful thing. You get to choose whatever response you want to choose to respond to the event that happened in your life. For example, let's use what happened to me. I call up the bank. I find out I'm cut off from the bank. I didn't cause that. I had great credit, made my payments on time. I kept my end of the bargain, but it was because of the global financial crisis that I got cut off, right? So I had all kinds of responses I could choose to do. Well, I could choose to do nothing, which would be victim mentality, or worse, go home, put my tail in between my legs, and go sit in the corner and eat a bag of Cheetos, and try to escape some kind of way, or respond with asking the question, who can help me with my problem, and being proactive. So again, this formula I just found so fascinating as to really you're able to be in charge of your destiny by changing the response to whatever event is going on in your life.
Respond, don't react. I think a lot of people let themselves just react to a situation as well, and that's where that generally it's a fight. You don't fight for it. You're either flying away, or you're freeze is the other
Yes,
one. So you're either
fight or flight.
yeah, and then freeze is actually the third option.
Right.
People freeze or people fly away from whatever that event is, and that's why they have the outcomes that they have in their life, and then they look at that and they think that that's just the way that life is.
Exactly.
Is that something that you've had? I'm assuming at some point you started to shift your mindset toward that, or is that something that you feel like has been a big part of your mindset for a lot of your life?
Um, One attribute that real estate investors, successful real estate investors, or anybody that's successful in any kind of business, one characteristic that you must have is resiliency. Resiliency. When I was a little kid, my granddaddy got me a pony. And when the pony threw me off, my granddaddy told me, he says, Jay, you got to get back on that pony right now, or you'll never ride that pony again. And so I have a little sign over here that says, get back on the pony now, right? And
That's good.
so I became resilient when I became an entrepreneur and went into business totally for myself. And so no, I wasn't always like that. I don't believe. I think that came with maturity, and when you're in business for yourself, I mean, you either got to make it or you ain't going to make it, right? And the reason I
Facts.
say you want resiliency is because trust me, I don't care what business you're in, problems are going to come along. Obstacles are going to come along. And so be resilient, have your consultants. And by the way, that also brings this thought up. Don't make the stupid mistake that I did that cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars. When I started out in business and investing in single family houses, I didn't go get a coach or a mentor until I got cut off from the bank. And here I was out here trying to figure it out by myself. So when you're starting out in business, for goodness sakes, get the right mentor, get the right coach that already understands that industry inside and out. And here's what I say: you're going to pay for your education one way or the other, and it's a whole lot cheaper to pay for your education
So true.
so you don't have to learn from your mistakes. You can learn from somebody else's mistakes, right?
So true.
And just save yourself time, energy, and money. I was so blessed, Jerry, to get to meet my wife and I were able to meet a few weeks ago John Maxwell, and he was the keynote speaker at a mastermind that Carol Joy and I are involved in. And at the end of his talk, best public speaker, best speaker, motivational speaker I ever heard in my life. He like blew me away. And so he opened it up for Q&A after his talk. And one lady asked him in the audience, she says, if there's only one thing or characteristic that you could attribute your success to, what would that be? And he immediately knew the answer. He says, I just fail a whole lot more than anybody else or other people. And of course, he went on to explain what that means. He says, on average, when you're trying something new by yourself, you're probably going to fail 70% of the time and you're going to win 30% of the time. He says, so somebody else might try 10 things new and fail 7 times and they win 3 times. He says, I'm going to try 100 things new. I may fail 70 times, but I got 30 wins and not 3 wins. And he even wrote a book a few years ago called Failing Forward, Failing Forward. And I highly recommend the book. So I may have already said it on your show, Jerry. I don't know, but if I did, I'll repeat myself. Success is a lousy teacher. Success is a lousy teacher. Failure is where you learn your lessons.
True. John Maxwell, he's another great one, for sure. He's got a whole plethora of books that are worth going through and digging through. It'd take you a long time to read them all, but I'd say that if you only read his books, you'd be in pretty damn good shape for sure.
For sure.
No, your a couple of your stories make me think about, we were talking about my friend Bob, who's in a couple of masterminds right now, one that you were in previously, and then another one. And before that, he wasn't in anything. He wasn't a conference goer or anything like that. Didn't have a coach, did a lot of work, and like you said, failed a lot in his real estate journey. And he's like, man, I should have done this so long ago. I should have done this so long ago, so long
Yes.
ago. After all the people that he's met and all the coaching that he's gotten from just the people there in the group, like not even direct coaching that he's paying for, like someone to help, like people that are willing to just help and you know help problem solve and give you ideas and so on and so forth. That's what happens when you surround yourself with like-minded people.
Absolutely. And Napoleon Hill gets credit for coining the phrase the mastermind, right? And Carol Joy and I have been in many mastermind groups over the years, and they are the most beneficial for, you know, getting you there faster, getting you there faster, because what got you here today will not get you there tomorrow.
Very true. Well, and I'd say that a lot of it is because everyone who's there, they all want to do something. They're all trying to make stuff happen. And so they all are ambitious. They're all trying to accomplish something. So they're not going to sit around and twiddle their thumbs. They paid money. They're going to show up and they're going to give their best. And then they want to make connections and they want to be around people that want to do the same thing. So that's why those kinds of things have such a big impact.
Absolutely.
Um, Jay, I appreciate you, man. A lot of good stuff in there, most definitely. I feel like we could just keep going on and on with the stories, especially. But where can people find you if they want to find out more?
Sure. So, two ways actually, I'm going to give out three ways to find out more about getting private money. First of all, I recently wrote a book, and this is not an ebook. This is actually a book that is called Where to Get the Money Now. Where to Get the Money Now. And the subtitle is How and Where to Get Money for Your Real Estate Deals Without Relying on Traditional or Hard Money Lenders. Now, you can spend 20 bucks on Amazon and get it, but don't spend 20 bucks. Just get the book for free. Well, how do you get it for free? Go to www.jayconner, and I'm an ER, not an OR. So go to www.jayconner.com/book. I'll autograph it. I'll send it to you, 3-day delivery, United States Postal Service. Just cover shipping, and the book is free. I'll ship it right out to you. And it goes into the exact program that I teach my new private lenders. And you can copy that and just model it and use it. So there's the book, jayconner.com/book. And then I just recently recorded, Jerry, my new private money challenge. And so it's a series of 7 videos that are only about 15 to 20 minutes long. And I go into all the details of private money, etc. And you can enroll in the Private Money Challenge at www.privatemoneychallenge.com. Again, that's www.privatemoneychallenge.com. You'll get the first video as soon as you enroll in your email box. And then the next 6 days at 9 a.m. in the morning, you'll get each subsequent video. We'll have a lot of fun. I'm engaging with you right there on the videos, and you'll learn how to raise private money. And then the third way is come join me on my podcast. So I'm now in my 8th year of my podcast,
Wow.
which is called Raising Private Money. Imagine that. So whatever your favorite platform is, Spotify, iTunes, whatever, just search for Raising Private Money with Jay Conner. You probably need to put that in there to find it. And I have 2 shows a week. I release them early Monday morning and Thursday mornings. And I'm always interviewing amazing people as to how they have already gone about raising private money, their favorite methods, how they go about it, and etc. So the book, I'll autograph it, love to ship it, privatemoneychallenge.com, and on podcast, Raising Private Money.
Very good, Jay. I'll put all that in the description as well and make it easy for everybody to get to. So thanks so much, brother. I appreciate your time, appreciate your energy, and definitely appreciate your knowledge.
Jerry, thank you so much for having me come on. Let's get back together again. In the meantime, God bless.
Till next time.